Your hosts are Jared and Jason, and you have arrived at the after party. The crown winner of last week is Dude Bro Moment, a true champion in service to white well-being, financially gifting 75 Save Our Baby dollars. 75 Save the White Baby dollars. Congratulations and thank you so much, champion. Second place goes to Tomb of Arminius, financially gifting 50 Australian Hoppin' Koala dollars. Congratulations to you and thank you so very much as well. You all may financially gift on Entropy, which will be up in a moment. And as you know, it's 15% cost to you. Odyssey, if you decide to gift there, also 15% cost to you. Odyssey is not working very well right now. You might not want to do that. And then there is also Cash App. All of the URLs are in the description below. Cash App is at no cost to you. And as you know, Jared and I evenly share the financial gifts with all of our guests here on the after party. Now, today you will see on your screen and in the title that we have as our guest the lovely Carlisle Cockatoo on tap. Carlisle, please introduce yourself to our community for those who do not know who you are. And you can tell them, I don't know if you have a place where you can be found. You do have a couple of accounts, but I don't know if you want to be searched for. But once you introduce yourself, we'll pass it over to Mr. George. We're going to get into this very fun topic of dogs or cats and what is your favorite pet and why? We want a lot of participation in the chat. Please share the URL wide and far. The mic is yours, Carlisle. She can find the mute button. Just find the mute button.
Hello.
Hello.
I'm Carlisle, and I'm super excited to be here to talk about pets because I have had lots of pets. Contrary to rumors going around, I do not have anything located in my basement right now. No animals whatsoever. But I have had in my life a bunch of pets, and they are wonderful. So I'm super excited to talk about it.
So you're an expert on pets.
Absolutely.
Okay.
I feel like this is the episode, the equivalent of, the late night shows when they're like, we're just going to bring out like the animal trainer today and he's going to show us snakes. That's
exactly.
The typical. No, it's a wild card, so it can go anywhere. So people can ask about whatever they want. But I guess pets are as good a topic as any to enter the arena with.
Absolutely.
So I don't have anything else.
Pets are amazing. Pets change lives. On a serious note, sometimes they really make a difference in people's worlds. Sometimes that's all people have.
Oh yeah. I was going to say, on a lighter note, I know people on the internet can be it could be a divisive topic.
It sure can.
Cats versus dogs, and I've seen that going around, and then of course you get into breeds and things, and just enjoy all of them.
Exactly. All of them except squirrels.
Well, I don't know anyone who's had a squirrel as a pet, but
then you're a good person.
I'm sure it's happened. I know people hunt pets. Hopefully not pets. Hunt squirrels.
As they should.
Probably more of a thing in the pioneer days, frontier days, right? I know it still happens. Still happens in some parts. We could have asked Yiz about that, when she told us about Appalachian culture a couple of weeks ago.
Right. Well, yeah. Out in the mountains, you need
meat.
You need meat. You need pets that can do more than just cuddle. But Carlisle, you've trained service dogs. I'm starting a serious place. Why don't they have service cats? But I guess they do. But they're just for emotional support. Is that right? But whereas dogs can like open the fridge and go get your mail and etc.
Send email.
Yeah, exactly. I don't know about service cats. Cats can be so standoffish, and I know some of them can be really loving, but Like if they have like an off day and the person is like, wheelchair bound, then that person might not get like, what they need like all day. I mean, that could be unfortunate. So I don't know about service
Yeah, I don't
cats.
have. I've never heard of a service cat, but you gave me an idea because I want to start sharing more of these. I shared like a few at odd times on Twitter. I'm compiling a list, but I got into this thing where I like thinking about bad band names. Hashtag bad band names. Uh, so I'm going to start sharing more of those, and I'm going to add that one to my list right now. Service cats.
As a
Oh, that,
band name, that's
Yeah,
hilarious.
yeah.
oh,
Once
that's
you get into a
fantastic.
groove, once you kind of train your mind to look for it, you could think of they're everywhere. Opportunities for bad band names.
That's funny.
Oh, that's awesome.
I have to resist the urge constantly to rename my musical outings. So I literally have a note file in my notes app on my phone where I'm compiling these bad band names.
Oh, wow.
It's a way to
Well,
blow off steam.
Service cats is perfect.
Yeah,
service
that's
cats
going
is
on the
perfect.
list. That's going on the list.
And I know someone who used to be a flight attendant, and she experienced one time someone boarding a plane with a guinea pig in a basket, and the guinea pig had a little vest on, and I kid you not, it said in big black letters, "Service Guinea Pig." And
Wow.
um, it was a challenge. It was a whole big thing because it was, they didn't believe that the guinea pig was a service pig.
Do you think? Do you think? Do you think it was somebody secretly filming it, trying to get one over on the airline, or just get the impression that this person was sincere?
I don't know because apparently the person claimed to have like severe PTSD, and he said the guinea pig was like his, I guess, like his lovey. You know how like kids carry around like a lovey, like a stuffed toy. So the guinea pig
Okay.
was like his thing where, he could pet it and it would purr when you pet it. And so I guess that was giving him like sensory feedback or something. But I mean, he did eventually he got to, they let him take it on. But the thing is though with airlines is it is very specific. The ADA says um, that service animals are dogs and then some breeds of small horses. And those are the
Well, that you would want to bring on a
Small
plane,
horses.
though.
yes, sir. They have small horses that are also service animals. Um, and they are allowed to bring them on.
I think I'm
Like
gonna
the airline
wait.
has to accommodate them.
Wait. An airline has to accommodate a surface horse.
They do, but you have to tell it in advance. But I mean, we're talking the little tiny ones. And the reason
Still,
is
no, the little tiny ones are still bigger than what are those? What are those huge dogs? Great Danes.
like the Newfoundlands or whatever they are. But,
Yeah. So, how much room is that going to take up on a plane? I don't. This
oh
is
yeah, oh
what kind
yeah.
of civilization are we living in?
I know, right? Oh my
Did
gosh.
you?
And did you see? I wasn't involved in this at all, but did you see on the news? This was a few years ago. It actually made headline news. Somebody went to an airport with a peacock, and I kid you not, they said it was a service peacock.
A service peacock. That's funny.
That's more of a backstage name on the Bad Bad Names thing, but I'll leave it at that. But oh man, I you got me going in different places all at once. See, even when we start with something as benign as this, it gets multi-layered. I guess
It does.
that's what comes with doing live streams for a few years. Your brain is automatically trained to look at all the angles and make conversation.
Yep.
Because on the one hand, I would never want to, on a serious note, belittle people with mental health issues. On the other hand, going along more with what we do here, sometimes taking a cold hard look at the world we live in and trying to understand it better, you have to think too, a lot of things in the society encouraging or not treating people with mental illnesses. Now, I'm not saying service animals per se as a category. I mean, there are people who benefit greatly from service animals. I mean, the people who are slipping through the cracks and, you know, think that their peacock is a service peacock, and, you know, no one's there to kind of guide them and say, hey, maybe you need a service dog, not a service peacock. And everyone's just, maybe the guy lives alone. I don't know. Maybe he doesn't have people around him, or maybe the people around him just go all along with it. And then all these other things in the culture that tell people you have any kind of minor emotional disturbance, well, you need to have this thing with you all the time. There's like, it's funny, but there's a serious undercurrent too about mental health and how it might not be being treated or even encouraged in a strange kind of way. Well, I don't know if I just totally take the levity out of all that.
I was just thinking you could end up, maybe there are a lot of things going on in society today where they're encouraging aberrations, what one could, you know, euphemistically consider an aberration of human behavior and thought, and they end up encouraging it. And maybe you're encouraging it if you.
That's what I was getting at, Jason.
Yeah, I mean, you have like the peacock, like you say, you know, maybe there's a telepathic communication between. In fact, I think Carlisle knows of some people who communicate with animals, but there are a lot of interesting people in the world, and unfortunately, their quirks are being forced on the rest of us. But I will tell you, I will start off when I was a child. We would go to the family member had a farm, and we would go there, and there was way out in the middle of nowhere back in the day, all the way out in the middle of Clifton, Virginia, which is now populated by tons of people and very expensive homes, $1 million homes and upward. And but back then it was all trees and gravel roads, and the farm, they would board horses, and they did some other businesses there, and they kept dogs, various guard dogs, and it was for the purpose of protecting the horses that were being boarded and other things that they were doing. And so I was a child. I was just quite young, you know, and quite small. And there would be these massive dogs. And I'd open the door when we pull up in the gravel driveway. Of course, everything's gated in. And I'd open the door, and this gigantic bull mastiff head, the dog's name was Chunkly. And he would stick his head in, and they would have, I mean,
it's a great name.
Yeah, they would have like easily 15 dogs out. There's a big piece of property, and they would have Dobermans and Rottweilers and bull mastiffs and a couple of others, but the shepherds. And anyhow, yeah, this gigantic bull mastiff would stick his head in and clean the smells off me. I would just sit there frozen, waiting for the thing to get its whiff and then move on. But yeah, I grew up with lots of dogs. I had a Rottweiler, I had a family Rottweiler, and then I had, of course, my Doberman, who was fawn, beautiful animal, very smart. But I grew up with a lot of dogs, and I'm mildly allergic to cats, both their dander and their attitude. But I know that they can.
I was going to say conveniently.
Yeah, a lot of people out there that like, you know, they love their cats. But for me, it's definitely dogs. And but you all folks, you can give your views in the live chat. We'd like to see what you all are saying. But we know that. Go ahead.
Oh, sorry. No. I didn't know you were still going. Go ahead.
Well, no, please make your point, brother.
Well, no, just on the category of heuristics again, which I'm always interested in, kind of reverse engineering things psychologically. And I know you can't get too attached to this sort of thing. So kind of just as, you know, rule of thumb, not be too hard and fast about it. But I feel like there has to be I'm sure there's like off the cuff funny things said online, but there has to be like a semi-serious but not too academic, like insightful essay somewhere that pinpoints some general differences between cat people and dog people. Because I don't know, in my life, I can kind of meet someone, and even before they tell you, you can kind of see if they're a cat person or a dog person. There's just kind of a cluster of traits that go with each. But I don't know if I'm treading into dangerous territory.
No, I
So
think
it might
that's
be,
probably
might offend people. As I said, it's a very divisive topic.
well. We have Carlisle has both. So, what are your thoughts on that? Dogs and cats. What are the traits of the person?
Well,
Or
Carla had to back out for a second because she said she couldn't hear me. So is that what she's off the screen? She's coming back in.
Let's see if she can.
There
hear
we go. Yeah. You can hear me, okay?
I can hear you now. I don't know what happened. It was the weirdest thing. So I went out and came back in, and now it's all good. But yeah, I have both. I have a dog and a cat. And I've had both. I tend to lean more towards dogs. But I mean, cats, they have good traits. I can't think of any right now, but I mean, they are. I mean,
I love this
they're
subtle shade. You keep, both of you have now thrown this subtle shade on cats.
they're furry, and that's cute. Um, but they just, I don't know. The cat that I currently have, I might have a better attitude about cats if the one that I currently had is not just constantly trying to kill me. She does this thing where she waits for me to be coming down the steps, and then she darts up the steps, like right in the middle. And especially if I've got something in my hands, and I swear, I really think she wants to see me fall. Like it has to be intentional at this point, because it's not just like one or two times. It's like a repetitive situation. So, I mean, if I didn't feel like the cat had an X on me, I would, I might have a better attitude towards cats.
Right. And I mean, to be fair, I guess we could say, because I don't think there's a tried and true cat person on the panel today of the three of us. So it might not be fair that there's no true cat person represented. I guess you could say, like anything, you don't want to focus too much on the negative. You don't want to only focus on the negative traits, because there are dogs who are what we typically think of as dogs, friendly and companions. But there's a lot of dogs who are bred to protect, which is great, but sometimes that goes too far. And, I know certain people, I don't even want to say, there are certain breeds of dog that have a bad reputation. And then you have owners of that breed who defend those dogs, not necessarily just one, but there's a few that the owners of those dogs really defend them, and they say they're misunderstood. But I mean, I personally know someone whose cousin grew up with one of the breeds that fits into that category. They got the dog when this guy was like a toddler, and they grew up together. And one day when the kid is like 14, so I guess dog's about 10 years old, because they got the dog when he was maybe 3 or 4 years old, so they grew up together. Fine, never displayed any signs of untoward aggression. Walks into his room one morning while he's still sleeping, starts biting his face. He had to have reconstructive surgery. So there are breeds that just, they can cross over that edge and turn on you. I don't care what anyone says. There's nothing anybody can say to me that's going to convince me that it's not true. And there's certain breeds that are just, I don't care how nice the one that you might have is and how great they are with kids and blah, 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 blah. I would never, ever, ever get by one, and I'd always be on guard around one. So I guess you could say, the weird cat thing, because there's weird cat things. Like, it kind of goes along with what Carlisle was just saying. There's that cat thing where there's a phenomenon, it might be a small percentage, I don't know, but there are cats who, when a couple has a cat, then the couple has their first child, cat gets jealous. And there's been incidents of cats going up to, not an old wives' tale, this has actually happened, going into the crib at night and putting its mouth on the infant's mouth and trying to like breathe over its mouth so that it suffocates.
I have heard of that.
There is that weird, insane, evil cat thing. Like that is a thing.
Wow.
But there's also violent, aggressive dogs that turn on you. So I'm just trying to be fair and say, yeah, there's jerks in each side.
Oh yeah, and I mean, absolutely. And like, you know, going back to the whole guinea pig thing. So I've had guinea pigs, and I love guinea pigs. They are so cute. And at one point I had a bunch of them. That's a whole different story. But um, but anyway, I had one, and his name was Louie, and Louie was like the badass of guinea pigs. And I mean, he was phenomenal. He would go up the steps when he was done hanging out downstairs. He'd go up the steps like a little slinky. And I mean, we're talking like he was like, you know, he's only like what, like 8 inches long or whatever, and he's all like tubular shaped. And there he is, like climbing the steps with those little snaggy nails, and like
totally tubular,
slinking it up there, just like a little slinky. It was amazing. And I mean, he just ran. Louis was the captain of his own ship. He was totally not a leader. He was a follower. I mean, I used to feed him bacon, and I'm not talking like the imitation bacon that comes in a box that you put in the microwave. I am talking like he was eating like actual like pig bacon. This was like carnivorism. Like Louis was total going carnivore, pig eating pig. You know, I mean, it was crazy, but that's just the way he was. He liked the way bacon tastes, and he just went with it.
Oh, so, you know, God.
So animals can have personalities, like even something as so small as a guinea pig, you know, and then there were other guinea pigs that had like the personality of, you know, wallpaper drying. So it all just depends on, you know, the animal for sure.
Yeah, that's true. The personality thing is hysterical. And you have to wonder, like, how much is it we read into it or project onto it, human traits and all that.
Yeah,
it's really interesting. But I mean, they're still undeniably they're ones with different temperaments. I mean, hey, everything is everything.
Did either of you ever have guinea pigs or hamsters or
I've had
rodents?
I've had friends that have had them, and you could still see people get attached, get upset when they die.
Yeah.
But no, I've never owned. I've never had one around the house. I'd be curious in the chat. I'll just put it out there quickly to the chat. Obviously, as I said, this is one of those laid back community, ask us anything kind of thing. So you could throw in a wild card question, not about pets too, but on the subject of pets, I would be curious to hear if anyone listening right now has had any exotic pets, something outside of what you normally think of, like I don't know, like a mini alligator or something, or.
Oh my gosh, that would be so cool. A mini alligator.
No, it wouldn't. What are you talking about? that was what my friend had up.
It had to be really mini.
That one was bigger than really mini, and that was dangerous. He'd get a hold of you and make a mess of you, I think. But
I had a blue-tongued skink.
Yes. Okay. Well, tell us about that.
Issa. So I ended up getting her through a coworker who was moving, and she was like, I have to rehome this skink that I have, or I'm gonna have to like drop it off at a pet store or something. And I have like just this heart. Well, I have this female brain that's just like, whenever something's gonna be abandoned, I'm like, oh, I can take that. I'll just make room for it. So she's like, okay, great. So she brings over this gigantic tank and this gigantic lizard. For some reason, I pictured skink and I pictured Dora the Explorer, which is
what
like
are they called?
Cartoon.
I don't even know what you're saying. I thought you were saying like skunk with an accent at first.
Oh, no, sir. It's skink. So it's SKINK.
Never heard of it.
Mm-hmm. So it's a gigantic lizard that has a blue tongue and like an alligator-like mouth. And it's got like this long tail, and it slinks around like a little alligator.
I didn't know you had this history with pets. So many pets.
I know, right? I am a multifaceted person.
Multifaceted pet owner.
I have a lot of layers. But no, so Issa came to live with me, and it was interesting because I had no idea. I thought she was going to be like a little tiny lizard when I agreed to take her. So when she showed up and was this gigantic, like huge, almost alligator-sized animal, I was like, oh my.
Can we ever get an image of a skink on the screen, Jason?
Yeah.
Is that
I could.
our equivalent of Jamie? Pull that up for anyone who's ever heard of a Joe Rogan episode. Pull that up, Jamie. Oh. Anything else, Carlisle, you want to tell us while we're on the subject of unorthodox pets?
Well, I also took in a bird that needed a home. Her name was Lily, and she was a green-cheeked conure. And that was a fascinating time for me because Lily, what I did not know about conures is that they need a lot of attention. They are a small parrot. And so they are very possessive of their people, and they need an exceptional amount of attention every day. And they need to feel like they are part of a like a pack with you. So Lily
So
would
how do you provide this emotional support for the conure? It's like condor, but conure. Is that right?
Yes, sir.
I really am learning a lot. This really is like the late night show. Let's bring out the animal trainer episode because Chris Pratt didn't show up at the last minute.
So the conure is, I don't know how people provide the attention that they need because I lost about, I don't know, 7 months of my life providing what Lily needed. It was insane.
What's kind of companionship? Do you have to like read to it? What is it?
Whenever I wasn't working, she was out of the cage. She was on my shoulder. Whatever I was doing, if I was working on emails, she was like right there watching the screen. When I was drinking coffee,
proofreading.
This is really gross, but when I was drinking coffee, she would climb down my arm and stick her beak in the coffee cup. I kid you not. And take a drink with her little tongue that's not really a tongue. You know, birds have that tongue that's like stuck in their mouth. And then she would climb back up and sit there. It was like whatever I ate, she needed to taste test. And whatever I drank, it was.
Did you continue drinking the coffee?
I sometimes I would. I mean, sometimes it had been like a long day, and I'm just
Carlisle,
like, yeah, go
you could have caught like a bizarre tropical disease. And
you have no idea. You have no idea how close you probably are. I probably almost did. I mean,
you have like strange bacteria from the Congo inside of you because of this.
Oh my gosh, it was bad though. I mean, I was so exhausted during this time because she would wake up and she'd be squawking early in the morning and she'd flap her arms and she would be like ready to get up and she would say, Lily, Lily? And I mean, she was ready for you to get her out. And then it was like that all day long. Like when I wasn't at work, it was like that all day. And when I was at work,
you were kind of her emotional support human.
I was her emotional support human. Yes. And I am not cut out for that. I found out something about myself. I cannot be an emotional support human.
It's not a layer, not a layer. You're many layers.
That is not a layer.
That's funny.
Resisting the urge to ask Jason about layers. There's what is that, skink?
On the screen is a skink, yes, blue-tongued skink.
Wow, it looks a little like a snake with legs.
Yeah,
exactly. Exactly. They are very intimidating.
Very dinosaur-esque. Since dinosaurs were mentioned, we could talk about dinosaurs as well. Did either of you go through a dinosaur phase? I know that's more of a boy thing. I went through an intense dinosaur phase.
Oh, yeah, I did.
I think I'm still in it.
Wow.
Yeah.
I did not. I missed that.
You missed the dinosaur stage. Well.
How much did it blow your mind as a young boy, Jason, to think these things actually walked around at one point? I just couldn't wrap my head around it. It was the most fascinating, mind-blowing thing to a 5, 6, 7-year-old boy.
Yes, it definitely was. I went to the museums here in the district and looked at the skeletons that were colossal. And I also would find out roughly how many stories a dinosaur was tall.
Yep.
And then I would go out and I'd look at the buildings and I would think, oh my God, it was that big?
Same. Yeah.
Totally blew my mind.
Well, so this might be another like Rorschach test, psychological heuristic. What was your favorite dinosaur? I think this might have come up on another episode of the After Party at some point.
Favorite dinosaur? Mine would be the T-Rex. I think it's easiest.
Yeah.
It's a big old beast. Is that the same for you?
Well, I definitely respected the T-Rex. I mean, who doesn't? But always being a bit of a contrarian, I wanted to look further afield. So I appreciated all of them, I have to say. But there was something about Triceratops that captured my imagination.
Yes. Yeah.
A little bit overlooked sometimes, but the thing that fascinated me, I think, was I read in a book somewhere, because I had a few dinosaur books in the Jared library, 6 years old, that the bigger ones that were more predatory couldn't mess with it because it had that big part of its, that, I don't know what the technical term would be, kind of extends from the back of its head. It's like an extension of the skull.
That's like a shield.
Yeah, and it would act like a shield. So it was kind of short, lower to the ground, but it would put that up, and then the predators couldn't attack its neck. It had no vulnerability there. So they lasted a long time, and I don't know, they were well protected. And then they had their horn coming out of their nose, so they could get things done when they needed to. So they were, I don't know, they were chilling out, but they could protect themselves. Whereas the brontosauruses, I think, with their long necks, I think they were just kind of sitting ducks.
Yeah, their size, that's all they had to protect them.
Yeah, they didn't really have any claws or horns or anything that could really be on the offensive.
Right, precisely. Yeah, so the Triceratops was like an enormous, like rhinoceros, but with three horns.
Yeah, 3 horns, exactly. And then obviously that was a direct precursor to me writing esoteric essays about the number 3 and its perfection. Yeah,
I bet.
Yeah, clearly, there he is.
Carlisle,
yeah, I did the same thing. Went to the Natural History Museum, and I was just blown away by the skeletons.
Isn't it amazing? Carlisle, do you have a favorite dinosaur?
Is there a Care Bear dinosaur? I don't know.
I think they went extinct early. Like the Brontosaurus, they didn't have many weapons.
Well, they have their Care Bear stare, their little patch on their tummy, where they do the Care Bear stare. But I guess that didn't do much for you. So whenever I would watch the Care Bears cartoon, I don't know if this was the way it is in every Care Bears cartoon. I grew up on the remix in the 90s of the Care Bears. So it was I guess they remade them and brought them back, because I think they came out like a long time ago, and then they brought them back like in the early 90s. So that was the version that I knew.
In the 1200s originally.
In the 1200s, when Care Bears were still roaming around with dinosaurs, is when they first did the show. Obviously.
I think Chaucer wrote a Canterbury Tale about Care Bears a long time ago.
But whenever they would like square off with an oppositional force on the Care Bears, they would.
Who were their enemies? Who were their predators?
Like Professor Coldheart. And these,
uncaring sorts of people were their enemies.
Exactly. Okay. Who else would battle a Care Bear? I mean, what kind of person?
No kind of healthy entity, human or otherwise.
I mean, seriously, they're just there to care. They just want to care. They want to bring sunshine and rainbows and good luck. So, but anyway.
I'd welcome that into my world.
Exactly. Wouldn't we all? And that's the thing. And then I don't know why these people all bent out of shape would show up and try to like destroy Carolot. There was no reason for that. So
Carolot. Is that like Camelot?
oh my gosh.
Here we go. Now we'll have to do an esoteric podcast or essay about the overlap between Carolot and Camelot.
Well, maybe there are similarities.
Arthurian themes in Care Bear the remix.
I don't know about Care Bears, but we do have a bear, a Pleistocene period here. He's called the cave bear, and you can see on the screen he's kind of a big animal.
Oh,
those were not included in the version that I saw of the Care Bears.
There weren't these things.
Those are not caring bears. No, there was Jason. I don't know if it's the same thing, but in North America, I believe in prehistoric times there was something called the short-faced bear. It didn't have as long of a snout as the modern bears that we're used to, and it was huge. It was the size of the ones that you just put up. It looked like a monster. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. All right.
Actually, it may have been so late that it might have been coterminous. That would be the right word with humans.
It's actually, I think it looks like it's bigger than the cave bear. Let me see if I can.
Yeah, which is another whole interesting thing because here I go trying to thread it into other things we talk about here sometimes. You think about mythology and monsters. It's really not too far to say that a lot of these things, ogres, might come from this distant memory of actually a time when people had to hunt or be hunted by these things that were literal monsters. When we think of it, nothing like this is really out there today, especially in North America. We don't have megafauna the way they still do in Africa and Asia.
Right.
We don't have our equivalents in Europe and North America of elephants and rhinoceroses, right? You were saying before, hippopotamuses.
Well, but we do have squirrels, and they are terrifying.
I don't know why you keep trying to shoehorn in the topic of squirrels.
Because people should be aware of the danger.
My aunt is, and that's pronounced aunt for people who are maybe in other regions of the States, love squirrels. So I have direct family member who loves squirrels.
Oh, I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry.
Okay, so this is the short-faced bear on the right.
Yeah.
Yeah, kind of showing it's even bigger than the modern grizzly bear and the cave bear. Yeah. I want to know as well, and for the benefit of our listeners, and maybe stir some pots. I feel like we might have glossed over the cats and dogs issue earlier.
Yeah, I guess so.
I don't know if there were more thoughts about what really divides those camps.
Divides the camps of cats
and
dogs.
The people that love them. There's something, again, speaking very generally, right? Very generally, rule of thumb kind of thing. I would say that maybe cat people are more delicate is the word that I would use, emotionally.
Yeah, I would agree with that.
That's probably that might well be the case. I mean, especially since so many females have cats. It seems like certainly there is a much larger population of cat owners that are females.
Oh yeah, definitely. And then of course someone might counter that and say, I'm being crude, and that dog lovers are simpletons. These are the eternal slings and arrows thrown from each side to the other. And I don't want to be here to cause division. If anything, I'm a force of harmony. So, but then again, there's that part of me, as I said, that I just can't help but be fascinated by these different ways that people, not organize themselves, but more that they self-organize by their psycho-spiritual traits. I think from talking to me over the years that it's something that kind of fascinates me. So even though I don't want to divide people, there's a part of me that can't help but ask questions like that.
No, it's
Oh,
it's perfectly
yeah.
understandable.
Yeah.
It's an interesting thing. I mean, cats, and it's also, I think, a matter of the context in which these animals are pets. Because on a farm, you might have cats for rodents, although you can also, there are plenty of small dogs that they're bred. In fact, when I was living out in the plains, Virginia, and a woman was this the woman that had, I think it was the woman whose horse had cut its leg on the property. As you ride through, you have to allow people to ride through your property out there, and there were two little dogs. I can't remember if they were like Jack Russell or something like this. They ran into the barn and they were shooting like missiles into each stall and coming out with and dropping dead mice. I couldn't believe it. They were just going through there like a machine, the two of them. And I don't know. I can't imagine cats. You know, they're like ambush predators. They're waiting somewhere for the mouse to come by, as I've seen it at least. Versus these little dogs that were shooting in. So you might have cats that was sort of like a passive predator, or also to keep things like rodents away and on a farm. But then your dogs that you have on a farm, they're also going to be working. So I don't. It's interesting how it seems to break down.
Right. You're absolutely right. I wanted to bring that up earlier. Context. It's a totally different thing on a farm versus somebody just living in an apartment who wants a companion and are, they choose a cat or a dog. I mean, the one functional thing about cats is you can leave them alone for longer. But even adjusting for that, I think it's still clear that there are some personality differences in general, the clusters between, people that tend towards cats and people that tend towards dogs.
Yeah, I think so.
I can't see the chat right now, so just let me know if there's any statements on this.
Well,
on this hot topic.
This hot topic. Archangel came through with the name of it's a rat terrier that I was seeing that was going in and getting all the mice like machines. It was amazing. But I guess they were rat terriers because they were bred for that, and they were just taking care of business. There was also, oddly enough, this is a really funny story. I can't tell the whole story because we're about 11, 12, 13 minutes before we want to start wrapping up, folks. So if you have any questions, any comments, make sure you tag or financially gift, and we'll get to those before the end. But there was a very large, when I lived out there, very, very large barn snake. So it's just jet black. And I would see it from time to time outside. And it wasn't even the biggest, the biggest one. The biggest one was, I don't know how old it must be. I think they keep growing as they get older, but non-poisonous, but maybe about 5 feet long and thick. The one I'm talking about. The other one was even bigger than that. But I was in bed and it was like midday. I was taking a nap, and I heard this loud click sound, this loud snap sound. And so I hopped up out of bed, and I had my Doberman living with me there. And she trots out into the kitchen area of this apartment over top of the barn. And I go walking out there, and I think I had this small fish tank, 10 gallons or whatever. And the sound had sounded to me like a electricity arcing. And so I immediately think electricity. I got all these electric things on the fish tank that's water. And so I go right to the fish tank, and I'm looking at the fish tank trying to figure it out. The dog is just looking at me, wondering what was that sound. And out of my peripheral vision, I saw something that my brain put together incorrectly, as the trash bag had somehow pushed its way out of the bottom of the trash can. So it was a black trash bag in the trash can. And I spun to my left thinking, how could this be happening? What I'm seeing? And of course, that wasn't what was happening. It was this enormous snake coiled around the bottom of the trash can. And so I jumped forward and I grabbed the trash can and I pulled it back. This giant snake had its head in the mousetrap, so that it had sprung the mousetrap closed on its head and neck. And of course, even though you could imagine springing a mousetrap on your finger, I mean, that would be, but this snake was so robust that it didn't break its neck. I was amazed. The snake was actually banging its head against the wall at that point to try to get the trap to come off. So the dog starts immediately acting like she's going to attack the thing. So I grabbed the dog. I don't know what kind of snake this is. We have timber rattlers. At this point, we have timber rattlers in Virginia. And that was the first thing that came to mind, given the size of this snake. So I grabbed the dog and I forced her into the bedroom. I shut the door. As soon as I turn around, the snake bangs its head against the wall one more time and the trap comes off. And now it's really mad. And so I thought, all right, snake, you got to get out of here. And I grabbed the lid of the trash can. I'm no joke, like a shield. And I was trying to go in to grab its tail, like crocodile hunter style. And it immediately coiled up and did two things that I didn't know they could do. It started smacking its tail on the ground to imitate a rattle. So it was actually imitating the timber rattler, and which threw me off again. I was just like, wait, because
that's a cool adaptation.
Oh yeah. So at that moment I thought, wow, this thing is, it's just a giant like barn snake. But then when it did that tapping on the ground really quickly, I was confused again for a moment. I had to look back to the tail because I'm looking for the rattles. And there weren't any. But now the second defense that it had came out, and that was this nauseating smell that it emitted. And really just, that threw me off as well. And then, of course, it attempting to strike, very aggressive, trying to get me, I guess after having its head caught in a rat trap, but very aggressive trying to get me. The story goes a little longer. I'll stop there. But it's finally getting it out was quite a tale. But yeah, the context for cats and dogs is I think, yeah, like you said, it's very important. And I think that dogs, we really bred dogs to do very specific jobs, and all these different breeds, they performed those jobs almost entirely genetically, thanks to the breeding, which is something truly remarkable. And that's why there's such a relationship there between dogs and human beings. We've taken over their genetic heritage for such a long time and worked with them in a way that we haven't with any other animals. Now, cats have always struck me as either it's like helping to keep rodents away, or both, in both cases, dogs and cats today, a pet that you can have in the house, domesticated, and in most cases you don't have to worry about it unless it's one of these bad breeds, if you will, or exotic cats. But a lot of cat people, I'll point out, and then I'll pass it back. I want to hear if the audience has anything else to share about cats or dogs or their favorite pet before we get ready to tap out. And that is, a lot of cat people, and this has irritated the shit out of me over the years. They will say that, and when I say cat people, I'm talking about these people that are just as fanatical as pit bull people. I don't understand. Like, you could
when you say cat people, you don't mean
just a cat owner.
Yeah, you don't mean bipedal human-esque cat beings.
No. I mean somebody who not just has a cat as a pet, but somebody who is like an advocate for cats. And I don't know if are you still talking? I can't hear you, Jared. I could. Oh no, you're
No. I'm not. Go ahead.
Okay, so this like advocates for cats, and it's just as irritating to me as these advocates for pit bulls. And of course, we know statistically that pit bulls, rip the faces off of children and their throats out of them genetically, because of so long they were bred for this kind of fighting. And I know that there are a lot of people, especially a lot of women out there, especially a lot of white women, who like to play this rehab game. You see them show up at prisons and at prisons for dogs as well, and they want to say, oh, he's just fine, he was only a 2-time rapist or whatever, and now we're going to get this dog and he's just fine, even though this breed, if your insurance company knows, your homeowner's insurance knows you have this breed in the house, it doubles.
They were bred, in their defense, I know people will say a lot of them were bred to protect infants as well, and that's what I've heard
I've
about. There's something about that with being caretakers.
Protect infant humans. I mean,
yes.
they have a history of attacking children. So maybe that breeding program failed. I don't know, but I know here in Virginia, I mean, there used to be a bit of a dog fighting culture, and pit bulls were bred. It's like the lower class people, totally opposed to dog fighting, cockfighting, any kind of animals having to fight. Disgusting. But they were definitely bred to be shorter, very muscular, and dumber witted, for the purpose of being able to fire them up and get them in a fight really easily, and then also be very cheap. For example, a Rottweiler can be $1,200. A pit bull, it can be like $20. I mean, the cost is very different. Now, I know you can have different, like they've been making breeding pit bulls with really exotic coats and things like that, and they can get quite expensive.
Yeah, and there's certain fighting lines in Boston that go back to like the 1800s when people were doing dog fighting up there, where you can literally get this certain line, and those can be very expensive.
Yeah. Well, so what ends up happening is when I come across these cat advocates, sort of like the same way with the pit bull advocates, but the cat advocates will say that human beings worshipped cats in Egypt. And I know this to be false, completely false. Human beings did not worship cats in Egypt. These cat advocates will still become unglued. Yes, they did. They even embalmed cat. They even made cats into mummies. That's how much they worshiped them. Folks, I'm going to tell you right now what they did in Egypt with cats. They had a cat god, and they sacrificed cats to the cat god. They did not worship cats. They bred cats. There were farms of cats in Egypt. They would farm them. They would produce them for the purpose of killing them for the cat gods. And then if your particular like patron god might be the cat god, then you might get buried with a gift for the cat god. So human beings were not worshiping cats. In fact, they were gruesomely killing them in Egypt and wrapping them up as gifts for the cat god.
Now, Carlisle, would you want to do the same kind of thing for a squirrel god?
She probably would, but she just dropped out. Maybe she was just attacked by squirrels.
I don't know what her thing is against squirrels. We might want to hear a little more about it. That is interesting. I did hear that they were seen at, well, kind of a combination of what you just said. I've heard more along the lines that the cats were seen as divine in Egypt.
This is what cat advocates will say, and it's a total misrepresentation.
Yeah, or representatives of the gods or something like that. But yeah,
right. They were gifts to the gods by the human beings.
Yeah.
You'd think if they were divine, if they were actually seen as divine, they wouldn't be farming them to kill them.
No. Let me just say one thing for the record, because again, I understand the cat people haven't really had full representation on this panel today. So let me just quickly say, I did have a friend who had a cat, and this cat had none of those weird traits, the evil cat traits, where they can kind of turn on you or be aloof kind of thing. Not turn on you the way a dog attacks you, but we were talking about before, where Carlisle was saying her cat runs up the stairs when she's on the stairs, and it's hard to not see it as the cat's trying to trip her. We talked about the baby's breath thing, the strange things some cats do with infants, the jealousy. If you do get a cat that doesn't have those traits, because I've had a couple of friends, now that I think of it, 2 cats I can think of growing up that I knew, who didn't have any of that weird, jealous, prissy cat thing that we think of, or to put it in the extreme, like the evil cat thing. And they were literally just like warm, loving companions in your lap, purring, furry and purring. When you get a good cat like that, then they're great. They're a great pet. And those 2 cats I'm thinking of were loyal, beautiful pets. So let me just say that for the cat people.
Well, that's generous of you.
I have my moments, Carlisle. Now the big question now is, what did the squirrels ever do to you? Who hurt you?
Oh, have you not heard the story?
Actually, on one of our holiday panel episodes, I think you did tell me this.
Yeah, it was a traumatic situation.
You were kind of attacked by a squirrel, right?
Oh, I was brutally attacked, not kind of attacked. It was a brutal, like, intentional act of squirrel violence. And it must be stopped. And people must be aware of this, because I am not the only victim out there. I mean, there are lots of people coming forward now that I've told my story. I have seen in chats that many other people are coming forward with their own lived experience as a squirrel violence victim.
I wonder if the red squirrels in Britain are any different.
Rory has a story about a squirrel trying to attack his infant son in a baby carriage. So it's not just me that was a victim of squirrel violence, and people that want to say that I might have provoked the violence. I mean, what did an infant do? He was just sitting there in his carriage. So clearly squirrels can be off balance, and that has to be dealt with. We need to deal with the mental health issues with
public health emergency
in this country. Absolutely.
Get us to Joe Biden's desk, because clearly he knows how to prioritize things that we really need to be prioritizing at this moment in history.
Well, that's something that he would probably push forward.
That's what I'm saying. Yeah.
We would have mental health specialists at every park evaluating every squirrel.
And white people would be paying for it all.
There'd be little groups singing songs. Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Maybe they just need to be understood. I don't know. But, I was trying to understand. I was there. I was there with popcorn. I was passing it out in a very democratic fashion. Everybody was getting some. And this squirrel just comes out of nowhere and stands there like he's going to take the popcorn. And I bend down and I reach my hand out. And he reaches forward. And instead of just taking the popcorn, he just tried to take my entire hand.
Wow.
He tried to take your dignity.
Hashtag not okay. Oh, he did. He did take my dignity, because when you have to go to the emergency room and tell people that you've just been brutally attacked by a squirrel, I mean, that's very humiliating. And then there was a police officer there, and because they have to notify the non-emergency police whenever there's been like an animal bite, because somebody might have rabies.
There's a non-emergency police.
Absolutely, there's a non-emergency police number wherever you're at. There's a non-emergency police number. So they notified.
That's the kind of police officer I would have been if I had to be a police officer.
so
Jared's a more sensitive boy. We'll put him in the non-emergency police.
This officer actually asked me with total seriousness, "Can you describe the squirrel?" I'm not kidding you.
That's profiling.
That is funny.
Is that profiling though?
He wanted to know what it looked like, because they wanted to, take it, because they'll take that one and try to determine if it had rabies. Because then the reason squirrels might attack without being provoked or whatever, they got to figure it out, is rabies going around in the park? Is it safe for people?
Right. And that is important for public health.
Absolutely.
And also, it kind of goes with something, Jason, I remember that just triggered my memory. You saying something a long time ago on one of these shows, going back to a little more of the rugged pioneer days, how if let's say a wildcat attacked a human, they would go try to kill the specific cat to kind of get it out of the gene pool, because most of those wildcats, or whatever kind of animal it was, they'd keep their distance. But if you had one that was crazy enough to go by the human settlement, they wanted to specifically go find that one, because it would be ideal to kind of just take those more crazy or courageous of the breed and try to get them out of the local population.
Yes. Yeah, precisely. But I'm sure Carlisle was very offensive, because she probably said they all look the same to me.
Well, I guess maybe I was. I was like, he was short and brown, and I said he had little snaggy nails, and I said he had fangs, really, really big fangs. So I'm sure this guy went to the park looking for one of Satan's minions, a short, brown, furry, fanged creature. They were unable to locate the specific squirrel, because apparently it's challenging to locate squirrels in a group.
That was on the 6 o'clock news that night locally.
Yeah. They're like Antifa.
Local woman attacked.
And they put up like a artist sketch of the squirrel.
Yeah, it looks like from Carlisle's description with the fangs, it looks like something out of like a J.R.R. Tolkien out of Lord of the Rings.
It's like saber-toothed tiger. Yeah. Like apparently the skull was 6 feet tall. And
it was a Pleistocene squirrel.
Yeah,
exactly. I would have been willing to do a lineup if they would have gathered a bunch of squirrels and put them in a room and let me point one out. God.
Did we have anything from the chat, by the way?
I don't think. Let me see. No, not on entropy, and
are they just shaking their heads and laughing at us?
That's pretty much what it is. We did have let's see. We did have Victorian time traveler give us some info on Bastet, I guess is how it's pronounced, was the goddess that they were killing the cats for, the cat god.
I've never heard of that. And we know they had like anthropomorphic gods. Yeah. Or if you watch Ancient Aliens, then these guys will tell you that we were literally being visited by hybrid humans of hybrids with animals, or they were doing genetic tests post-Atlantis. I don't know.
Yeah.
This is what keeps people up watching the History Channel at 1 o'clock in the morning, I guess.
Yeah, exactly. Now, I used to, for a period here where I am now, had a real problem with squirrel. It was insane, the number of squirrels that were here. And, excuse me, shooting them to reduce the population size would have been obviously much more efficient. But you can't do that. In this county, you can't even discharge a BB gun because of the population size. So I resorted to, and technically I don't know that this is even legal. Probably not, who knows. But I resorted to trapping them.
You might not want to say this.
Yeah.
Like in a few years, it'll be like
it'll come back.
Your political enemies will be like, we can get him on this technicality.
We're gonna put him away. I resorted to trapping them. I got a squirrel trap, and then I had to modify it a little bit to make it work a little bit better, and baited it, and then we just keep an eye during the day. I wouldn't leave it out overnight because I wanted to reduce the time that a squirrel spent in the trap. So I wanted it to be within a few hours of being trapped. And then, excuse me, then I would go out, I would throw a towel over it, and I would hop on my bicycle and ride it beyond what the range is. I looked up what the normal range is for a squirrel. And, they don't normally like jump on the back of a train and go riding across the country. They have a specific range. And so I cycled further than that, which wasn't terribly far. And then I would release them. And there were two things were really, I guess, stood out to me. Number one, when I got near the cage, before I could get the towel over it to calm them down, they were vicious little suckers. I mean, they wanted to get a hold of you with those fangs and claws. And the other thing is, after riding in that cage on the bicycle, by the time I got to the point to release them, and I would open the door on that thing, they were like missiles. It was like a cartoon movie. They would shoot out of it. I would hold it like waist height for fun. After a while, I started off putting the cage on the ground, but then when I saw that they were able to fly for a certain portion of the exit, I would stand like waist height, open the thing, and it was like a gun going off. They would fly through the air, hit the grass, and then keep going, and never saw them again. So the squirrel population, the numbers here have been much better since I made those efforts. But who knows what it's like where I dropped them off.
Well, now I could see what the two of you bonded over. Your shared hatred of squirrels.
Yes, more people should take those kinds of efforts to rid their environment of an overpopulation of squirrels, for sure.
I remember talking. I could tie these topics together. I went to a friend's house. Now this friend of mine always had cats, and these were not cat advocate people. You know, they weren't trying to tell you that human beings worship cats. They were just regular cat owners, and these were your typical sort of uninterested cats. You know, they were interested for food or maybe a pet, like a pet here or a pet there, but otherwise they just wanted to do their own thing. Anyhow, they always had three. Anyhow, we were standing in his kitchen. It was one night, and we were standing in his kitchen, and the cats, in that area, you were allowed to let your cat outside, like during the day, and then your cat would come home, you'd bring it back in the house. And the cat walks up to the sliding glass door at the back of the house. We're in the kitchen, and you could just see it outside from the light going through the sliding glass door. And he sees it, and he said, "Could you let my cat in?" And I said, "Sure." I open up the door, the cat hops in. I pay no attention. You know, I just wait until it goes by. I shut the door again, and we keep talking. As we're talking, I look down at the floor, and then I notice there's blood on the floor. And I could follow the drips of the blood, like a good number of drips on the on the floor. And so I was looking, and I said to him, I was like, "Oh my, there's blood all over your floor." And we both are at this point like tracking the blood all over the floor. And it ends abruptly by the counter. And we looked up on the counter. Because our eyes were so much on the floor and kind of looking around the floor, trying to figure out what it was and what had caused it. That cat that I had just let in was sitting on the counter, and the kitchen counter, for God's sakes. Anyhow, it was sitting on the counter and just profusely bleeding from its face and all over the counter. And so he immediately freaks out and yells for his mother, and they grab the cat and they leave, and I have to go home, of course. And so come to find out, after the vets performed some sort of surgery, that the cat had gotten into a fight with a squirrel, and the squirrel had bitten through the sinuses on the face of the cat. It actually, the squirrel chompers had gone all the way through, so they had to repair that, and the cat lived. But it demonstrates that they have a lot of fight in them.
Man, I never knew any of this about squirrels until speaking with the two of you on this.
Squirrel violence is real. Yes. Squirrel violence is real and not often talked about.
Man, all right.
I had not
have to go
I
do
completely
some
forgotten
thinking
about that.
I have to go do some thinking. I will say this about cats. The litter box thing. Okay, that's the reality of having a cat. So
Yes.
Please don't have your cat walk all over the dining room table and kitchen counters. You know, that's the one thing when you go to a friend's house and they're like, "Okay, I'm in the cats. All right, okay, I'll deal with that." But the cleanliness factor of that, where people let the cat walk all over where you eat.
Oh yeah,
and they go in the litter box. Yeah, that's one thing I will say. The cat owners need to be mindful of.
Here's something that the litter box, the aroma, the mephitic aroma issuing from the room where the litter box. That's every one of my friends that had cats. There was always the room. They're like, don't go in there. That's where the litter box. It's like, don't go in there. That's where we keep the rapist murderer. I mean, that's like the energy that came out of folks when they were. And then also,
what do you think of the What do you think of the deniers though, who say, no, you never smell it?
They've gone nose blind is all I can say. If they're being honest, they've gone nose blind. Everybody else can smell the room. But it's also the same with like over the years where it was like dating girls, the same things. It was like friends' houses that had cats and girls that have cats that you're dating. You show up and they scream. You're like walking over like, do I put my jacket in? No! And you're like, what? What is in this room that I can't even go near? They're like, whatever you do, never go near that room.
It's like Bluebeard.
Yeah. But here's
the female equivalent of Bluebeard.
That's actually a really funny fact about cats and cat owners. But rabbits. Here's the thing that I thought, and I guess it's potentially still in the process of taking place. Yes, rabbits.
Yeah, rabbits are cool, from what I know. Unless the two of you are about to tell me that they attack people.
No. They well, my experience have always been have been good. They years ago I read, and it seemed totally believable, it seemed totally legitimate, that rabbits would supplant cats as the second, next to dogs, following dogs, a widely kept pet. And the reason why is because they're getting closer and closer to what could be considered domestication. And they can be extremely easily trained to use a litter box. And so the only issue is, I guess they're trying to breed out of them, is the testing everything that looks like a vine. So that would mean your cables and cords in your house. They don't necessarily apparently want to eat those things, but they'll have a bite, and that might be the end of the use of the device until you have the cord replaced. But the thing about rabbits is that they are, even though I know a lot of cat owners will say, oh, the cat's quite loyal, and maybe it is, but cats in the wild don't have we don't see the same thing as we see with dog packs. Rabbits also have packs, so they're like a cross between a cat and a dog when it comes to the interaction. The rabbit sees you as a pack member, but also wants a little bit of its own space and
more familial.
And what?
Yeah, more familial.
Yes.
This is a very interesting topic altogether that you just opened, of supplanting cats and what kind of animal might take its place. Very controversial, but I want to know if either of you know about. I've heard about this when I was a kid, and it seemed like it was going to become a bigger thing, and I never really took off. Pot-bellied pigs. Apparently, they're very, very intelligent. They're actually very clean. So, do either of you know the story as to why they haven't been? That's become a bigger thing.
The only thing I could guess, and we'll let Carlisle give her thought and then her final thoughts, and we'll begin to wrap up and tap out. But is that the problem is that we love to eat pigs so much that having one as a pet would ruin that food that we have to have.
Right.
At least I do. I mean, if I really started becoming friends with a pig, that would be so life shattering. I don't know what would end up happening. I love bacon so much and ham, but Carlisle.
Well, I actually have a friend who had so she adopted what she thought was going to be a teacup pot-bellied pig, and I guess that's probably what they tell everyone. Oh, this one is a teacup one, because they're supposed to be like the little teeny tiny ones. Norman was not a teacup. He was more like a teapot pig, as it turned out. When he grew up, he was a big boy, and she couldn't keep him anymore. But Norman was he was affectionate enough. He was very demanding, and he didn't have the same persona as a dog. Like he would play some, but it wasn't at all like people are like, oh, they're just like little dogs. He really wasn't. He was, he was like a pig.
Can't blame him.
Yeah, I can't blame you.
I'm just impressed we kept this up the whole episode. It really was an entire episode about pets.
We probably could do follow-ups, part twos. And did Victorian Time Traveler, was it you who wrote the poem about the Arlington Panther when I told the story about the panther? If you're still with us, who wrote that poem? I read it. That was a fantastic poem. After I told the story, it was like later in the week. Somebody wrote the poem about. So essentially the story was that in Arlington, Virginia, they passed an ordinance that said you could no longer have like big cats, and it was probably because there was a guy who had a panther in Arlington, and it was all the talk. It was the talk of the town. The guy with the panther.
When was that?
Oh, it was back like in, I guess it was the 60s. So it was
yeah, it's recent enough. It's not not like the 1860s.
No. Yeah, the guy had and then I don't recall if it was maybe it was made retroactive to make him get rid of his panther, but I don't recall. But yeah, that was the Arlington. So that's one hell of a cat to have. If you're gonna have one, that's one hell of a cat to have. They're magic animals.
Yeah, but I don't know about domesticating them.
No.
And having them live around humans. These things have their limits.
This was a fun show, and I hope everybody had fun thinking about their pets and animals and the old stories. Maybe it'll spin off some conversations for folks later in their days, as they think about these things.
Yeah, this was just like a pub side chat.
This was fun, and if you have a second, like an episode continuation, I would totally love to come on. We could talk about when I participated in guinea pig shows.
We're definitely going to have. We want to hear about that.
There's a professional organization of KVs, the American KV Association. That's what guinea pigs are called, is KVs. And you can show them. You can take them to actual shows and show them. And those are fascinating people that make a life of guinea pig shows. Yeah.
Best in show, blue ribbon kind of thing.
Yes.
Wow.
And the guinea pig, like their snout is measured, and like their different physical attributes. And I mean, these people spend tons of money, like getting the right hair for their pigs, because there's long-haired guinea pigs, and the long-haired guinea pig. It's amazing. It's a whole nother world.
Yeah, what kind of characters do you meet who are guinea pig breeders?
That's what I mean, and not just guinea pig breeders, but guinea pig showers. These are people that travel around the country with some of these guinea pigs are like thousands of dollars to buy, like these real expensive ones.
God.
Oh yeah. Oh, it's a whole new world.
And what was your involvement?
Well, I had someone give me a long-haired guinea pig, and she told me
the moral of the episode is Carlisle will not refuse any offer of an animal to take care.
Right. If you have an animal that needs rehoming, reach out, because I've got a basement.
Oh God.
But no. So they gave me this long-haired guinea pig, and it had a bloodline, a show history, and so I did some research on it, and I was like, oh my gosh, this guinea pig has been to like guinea pig shows. The guinea pig had like rubbed elbows with people that probably, have more money than I will like ever have in my life. I mean, we're talking like these are some really wealthy people. And I was like, wow, this is like a really well-to-do guinea pig that I've inherited. So I wanted to learn, about where he came from and like what his background was, so that I could better understand him, and make him feel comfortable in my home. And so I did. I really researched his background and all. And I started looking at guinea pig shows, and one came to my area. So a friend of mine and I went, and she and I did not participate, but took in and watched a guinea pig show. And it was a fascinating situation.
Yeah, you really do have a storied history with animals.
I do.
We need to dig more into
no
that
joke.
the next time.
In between political and social commentary or esoteric, philosophical, spiritual discussions, we'll pepper this in as well.
Sounds good.
Well, all right, folks. We're going to tap out. It was a great conversation. Appreciate everybody being here. And it was Victorian Time Traveler. He actually wrote the poem during the stream. As soon as I talked about the Arlington Panther, and at the end he says the Arlington, in the poem, the Arlington Panther is still out there. And I have the poem somewhere. If you have it at your fingertips, Victorian Time Traveler, it'd be great for you to put it in the thread under this video as well, because that was fantastic. Well done. It was a lot of fun. But we had a heck of a time and enjoyed every minute. And thank you all for being here. And thank you for everybody who participated in the live chat. And if you have any stories that you would like to share, do share it in the thread once this video goes up and is processing. And maybe you didn't participate in the live chat today, you watch in replay, you could share your story about your pet there if you would like to in the thread after the fact, because we're definitely, it seems we're on our way to part 2 in the coming weeks at some point. We got to hear more about guinea pigs and guinea pig shows and the massive...
Yeah, I have notes.
Good. The massive human smuggling and drug smuggling that goes on at guinea pig shows. And on that note, we look forward to seeing you all again